Okay, this is John Spangler. I had seen some information from Gary Vaynerchuk. He was talking about going on Anchor and talking freely about what you may have some background or some information on. And yesterday, it just struck me that I was on a conversation with a auto dealership, and the frustrating part for them is you've got all these big companies coming in and telling you about how you're going to be at the top of the search engines. You know, you're going to be whatever, F-150 in your town or your town F-150. It's just simple examples. But one of the things that struck me was the fact that they were not getting ups or they were not getting leads. They weren't getting people coming into the dealership. It's not a small dealership. You know, they're spending a lot of money on traditional advertising, the newspaper, the radio, the billboards, the TV, all the traditional avenues. And something that really struck me with Gary V's information, and I'm here to tell you that I'm doing it. I struck a chord with it myself where I didn't, I was one of those guys that was doing just what I was hearing the auto dealership manager tell me about. And I'm there because I have an SEO company. I've been doing this now for 10 plus years and telling people and businesses, hey, you're up at the top of the search engines. Hey, here are your AdWords and everything else, and putting the investment in. But I wasn't really listening to the customer, the clients, i.e. the dealerships, the other businesses that were paying me, and listening to them and really understanding if they were getting people in the dealership, what they were selling on and these big companies were selling on, and me trying to emulate these big companies was, you're at the top of the search engines. You're kicking ass. You're doing fantastic. Look at this. You've got 3,000 keywords that you're at the top of the search engines for. But was that equating to selling more cars, trucks, vehicles, whatever it was? And the answer was not necessarily. Like if you took everything away, and were you still, at the end of the day, making a profit off of what you're paying me or paying these other companies to what you were getting in return, and that is actual people buying the vehicles? So what I've found through Facebook and some other mediums that we'll go through, but really with Facebook right now in 2018, it's like the Google AdWords. Like yesterday, the dealership guy was telling me, he was dealing with Auto Trader back in the day when it first came out, and they gave him a month trial of Auto Trader, and he said that I think this was like in 2008, something like that, and they were rocking. He said we sold probably 50 cars, I think it was actually 43 cars through Auto Trader, and they thought, holy Christ, we just hit the mother lode. This is going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. And what ended up happening was the marketplace started catching up. And what Gary Vee and some of these other folks are talking about is it doesn't matter about social media per se. It's not like, he or I or anyone else have this affection towards social media. It's going where the attention is, where the people's eyes are that you want to be in front of, which was why, people want to be able to, go in and, advertise on TV because they think that's where people's attention are. And, my kids, we have traditional cable only because that comes through our internet and we get it for free. But they haven't watched a traditional TV show, good Lord, in probably three plus years. Like the days of watching, Disney and all those traditional TV shows are out by the wayside. They're sitting there watching the YouTubes and the Jake Pauls and all those other characters on YouTube, and that's where they spend the majority of their viewing habits. They don't ever, I don't think I've ever seen them watch traditional TV. That is going by the way of the dodo bird. And what we are finding now from an advertising platform standpoint is that if you as a dealership are not putting yourself in front of where the eyeballs are, you're not gaining you're not going to have those people coming into the dealership that you used to have. And what I was saying with the Auto Trader is, he at that time, I think, was paying $500 a month for the Auto Trader. And now here it is, fast forward in 2018, the latter part, it's November 2018, they're not using Auto Trader anymore. He tried it again. He gave it a shot maybe about a month or two ago, and I think it was like almost $3,000, and that wasn't even for their premium package. I think it was like close to $6,000 or $8,000 for their premium package, and they even tried that for a month. Didn't get any type of return, really. I mean, they got one or two, but that was it. They were not getting the substance that they were expecting to get from what they had back in the day. Now they are trying out some other third-party sites like cars.com and carfax.com, etc. But the point is that I was talking to him about is, what about Facebook? And he's like, oh, we boosted some posts, but we didn't get anything. I'm like, well, that boosting post is separate than what I was saying. Have you been advertising on Facebook? What are you doing advertising-wise? And you could hear him kind of pause. And I was asking him about that. And that's what I'm talking about with you, is that if you want to be able to, in 2018 and beyond, really hit it out of the ballpark for the next probably 18 to 24 months, advertise on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, because that's where the eyeballs are right now. And I know that you're thinking, oh, good Christ, whoever thinks about that, whoever goes on there, I'm telling you right now, a lot of people. Just this morning and yesterday afternoon, I was going through one of the leads that I had for another dealership, and we generated, I think it was 12 leads for only $35. 12 real, I shouldn't say, I'd say out of the 12 leads, 10 were real. One was kind of, they never called me back, so I don't know if it was real or not, and one was just fake or bogus. But what that meant was, you had realistically 10 people coming in that I was able to have conversations with, and we sold a vehicle off of that for $35. Where else are you going to get that? You can't get that in today's world if you're going through a cars.com or carfax.com or anything else like that, because they're wanting to charge you $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 a month. And they're not showing you any type of return. They're just saying how you're getting so many impressions or so many people looking at your vehicle inventory and all that. But is it equating to more people coming into the dealership? Yes or no? That's the currency that you're looking for, is the attention, the eyeballs, the people coming into the dealership. Then once they're there, we'll have a whole other talk on that. And I went through that with some of the folks with their BDC and everything else and how they're having conversations and so forth. But really, it starts with generating traffic for the dealership. I don't care if you're in Pennsylvania or if you're in Virginia, California, Kansas, anywhere in between. You want to be able to put yourself in front of the people that are looking at the content right now. And there's never going to be a better time for the dealership than today, right now, going in and advertising on Facebook. And some of you may say, well, how do you go ahead and advertise on Facebook? I don't even know the best thing. YouTube it. Go in and YouTube how to create an ad on Facebook. It's not that difficult. YouTube, I YouTube everything. I was YouTubing how to sharpen a chainsaw, for Christ's sake. And I don't know anything about chainsaws, but I figured out how to sharpen a chainsaw. And that I all figured out through watching on YouTube. YouTube right now is just fantastic. Advertise on YouTube. YouTube is actually the second largest search engine behind Google. Google itself actually owns YouTube, so they give it a lot of love up in the search rankings. But I'm going to reiterate and try and really focus in on developing the platform for Facebook for you today. We'll go over some of the other mediums and how to use them and how to generate the leads for your dealership. I don't care if you're an independent or if you've got 25 dealerships across the country. If you're not in front of people that are looking or where they are, you're missing the boat. And right now, for the foreseeable future, everyone, I mean, the remote control of our lives that we have are all done through the phone. You know, when I was going through the leads that were coming in through Facebook, the dealership I was talking to, I'm like, how are the leads? Oh, they're not that great, blah, blah, blah. And I just questioned it. And they had made some attempts to reach them on a Saturday morning. They only called once. It was a Saturday morning, and they didn't call back. And so I called. It was a Friday, and I called. And if I didn't reach them, I sent them a text message from my cell phone. And I either got a reply or I got a call back on all of them but one. I mean, that is a superhuman type of response rate for the leads that we were able to generate for $35. So what do? We double down and do 2 ads for $35. So now we're spending $70, big dollars here, and we ended up getting, I think it was 40 leads, 40 real people that we were able to have conversations with, and we're generating business through that. These times right now in 2018, going into 2019, you have the best opportunity that we've ever had in our lifetime, because what's unique about what we're doing over going in and putting something out there on cars.com and I'm not knocking any of that, okay? There's some things that you can do. You know, you can do some retargeting, and if you're not doing retargeting, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because you know, Facebook retargeting and Google AdWords retargeting are both fantastic. I mean, I'd go on the Facebook side, and we can go over that at another time. But the retargeting, if you're not familiar with what that is if you happen to see, if you're searching, let's just say, for golf clubs, and all of a sudden you go to ESPN.com or CNN or eBay or whatever, all of a sudden you start seeing these ads for these golf clubs showing up. That's retargeting. They're dropping a pixel, which is just this little tiny dot, into your browser, and it controls the ads that you're seeing based off of your viewing habits. And you can do that where if you know you're paying a lot of money to these third-party vendor sites, you know, like Car Gurus and etc. If you're not throwing that retarget in there, you're leaving a lot of opportunity on the table by itself if you are just going ahead and just using those third-party type of sites. But by going in and utilizing and working smarter, not harder, and you start putting those same retargeting and ads on the ads that you're doing inside of Facebook, well, then now you're going to be doubling down on your own efforts. And it struck me, one of the things that I did ask was that, you know, do you have a database of the customers who did buy from you? And he's like, oh, absolutely. We email blast them at least, you know, once a month, maybe twice a month. I'm like, no. I'm not asking if you're emailing them. I'm asking, did you create a custom audience inside of Facebook with all of your customers that had purchased from you? And I could hear a pause on the other side. And he's like, what? I'm like, you realize, let's say you have 1,000 emails or, you know, 1,000 email addresses of the customers who had purchased from you. Well, you can go in and upload those email addresses inside of Facebook and create a custom audience. And then you can advertise to the folks that had already purchased from you, and you can advertise differently than you would to somebody that doesn't even know who you are or never purchased from you. Because if they already know who you are and they already purchased from you, there's a greater chance or a greater opportunity for you to have them do business with you again. And you can go ahead and direct that through the ad. Hey, you know, this is XYZ auto dealership. You worked with us, whatever it might be. And he just, you could tell that it kind of like the light bulb went off on the other end. That's fantastic. That's what I'm about. You know, working in and providing a lot more value, because everyone else is out there with their hand out trying to get you to spend $5,000 on this or $2,000 on that or $10,000 on this. But there's no substance behind it. There's no real accountability, because everyone's going into the same pitch. Hey, we can get you at the top of the search engines. Hey, you know, we can manage your AdWords. Hey, we can, you know, they were spending, I think it was over $5,000 a month just on the one store in AdWords. And almost, I think it was like 40% of their budget was just for their own name in the AdWords. It might have not been 40%. It might have, let's just say it was even just 5 or 10%. You're spending $2,500 to $5,000 or to $1,500 just to advertise your own name on the search engines. And if you're going to have to develop your own branding, they're going to go to your website regardless. So why are you paying for your own name? That's kind of crazy, kind of ridiculous. And Google will actually kind of whore themselves out, excuse the expression, because they'll let your competitors bid on your own domain name. That's terrible. Inside of Facebook, when they're perusing through their timeline, they're vulnerable. They're not looking for a car. They may have a need for a car, but they are not looking for a car because they're on Facebook. And you realize, I think it's close to like 90 or 80% have their Facebook on their phone. It's just an ungodly amount. And when the gentleman was talking to me about email blasting, once or twice a month, I said, well, what about Facebook messaging these guys? And he just was like, what? I'm like, when you create the custom audience, you also have the ability to direct message them through Facebook. Facebook's trying to basically do away with the whole email platform and have you use exclusively the Facebook messaging platform. And any of you know what I'm talking about. If you get a message on Facebook, you go in, it's got like a 90+% open rate. And so if you send them a message through Facebook, they're going to open it up and they're going to read what you have to say. But what I'm getting at here is that there's a lot of different options available. And at the end of the day, all you care about are more people coming into the dealership. And I'm probably kind of throwing up on you on a lot of this information. It's like drinking from a fire hydrant. But if you go back and re-listen to what I'm sharing with you, or if you're hearing what I'm saying, it's know where your people's attention are right now. One of the things that I also talk about is, what are your salesmen doing right now? Like those days that you're not inundated with people coming into the dealership. Are they just looking out the window? Are they following up on the phone calls? If they go in and you've got people that you've already dealt with or that have been working with you before or have purchased vehicles from you before, what's your follow-up process? How do you follow back up with them? And using platforms like, the retargeting through Facebook or AdWords or whatever it might be, you can do that, and it's very easy to do that. And when you have a BDC, are you following up with them? Are you listening to their calls? Are you listening to how they're your first line of defense? You want to be able to have them have it down and talk to them and ask questions. This morning I was going through some of the phone calls, and I actually just physically picked up the phone and started dialing some of these leads myself. And we had some fantastic conversations where I was able to forward over the recorded call so that they could hear the leads and what they were saying and what was of interest to them. And then I was able to build what are called lookalike audiences through Facebook, because those individuals that had responded to our ads were exactly what we were looking for. And by doing that, we were able to create that lookalike audience in Facebook. We were able to get even more bang for the dollar. I mean, we're talking, about $1 or $2 per lead versus having to pay $40 or $50 per lead. When you're using those third-party websites, and what I was mentioning to you before with the retargeting, those are all fantastic. And you should be doing the retargeting, but you should be developing your own brand by creating the content out there. And it's not just putting the picture of Mary and John Smith with their Toyota Tacoma or their Honda Civic or whatever it might be. It's actually giving a crap, like giving a shit about what they're doing and what their interests are, and really focusing in. Like if you live up in the Northeast, talk about how your vehicles, what they do different and why they don't have the rust, or what they should be careful for about looking at vehicles that have rust. One of the calls that I had this morning was that he's not purchasing vehicles around his area because he can't find any that don't have the rust. And that's a big problem. And that's a concern that he had. And if you created right there, you could have a couple days worth of content you could write on, the brine and the snow and what you can do to make your vehicle last longer in the winter weather or whatever it might be. If you think about the customer first and not about the profit, you're going to stand to have a much better experience. And it's not a get rich quick here. It's not meant to generate a profit right off the bat. It's meant to be a marathon, not a sprint. You're trying to allow them to have an opportunity to develop a relationship. You just don't go at the bar and see a woman and say, do you want to marry me? You want to buy them a drink and have a conversation and see where it goes from there. And too many times I just see these dealerships where, they'll only handle the calls that come in off the leads. That's it. And sometimes they can go a day or two without even getting any. And you'd think the phone was an 800-pound gorilla that they can't pick it up, or they can't digest it, or they can't send out a follow-up message, or whatever it might be. They're just waiting for the handouts. Those days are gone. You want to have the opportunity right now to be able to develop and nurture those relationships. Now through the end of the year, I challenge you. I challenge you to go out and create your first Facebook ad. And you might screw it up. Guess what? You're already screwing up because what you're doing right now isn't working. The radio, you don't know what station that they're listening to. The TV, no one's watching it anymore. The newspaper is archaic. No one's even reading it. But the Facebook platform right now, if you were to sink all your money into that and, just chalk up the first month as a learning experience and grow from that. Learn and fail fast and hard. Find out what didn't work so that you can build what will work. I was talking with him when they were going through his AdWords, and he was like, oh my God, why are we doing this or why are we doing that? And they were spending a good amount of money on areas that they didn't even have vehicles in. And it wasn't until I was asking him the questions that he pulled the account up that this company was supposed to be managing, that he realized they weren't really managing it, because to them, the dealership, they were just another dealership in their arsenal, because they had so many other dealerships, and that's why they're the big outfit. They weren't getting the attention, and it goes both ways. As a dealership, you have responsibility to kind of monitor it to yourself. You don't want to just lay it on the feet of the company, but at the same time, you want to hold them accountable and ask the questions. But unfortunately, sometimes you don't even know the questions to ask. And by just taking a little bit of time, and here's the cool part, over a weekend, you could get caught up. Even if you've never done a Facebook ad in your entire life, you could get caught up in a weekend by just watching a couple videos on how to do it and what to do and best practices, that you'll be pretty dangerous and have some success and maybe some failure. But from the failure, you're going to gain some knowledge on what to do better moving forward. All right. So I'm ranting right now. I want to be able to have more input for you guys. If you have questions, hopefully you liked what this information's about. It's about giving. I'm not, here to try and generate business and all that kind of stuff. I want to genuinely have you guys be successful, because by putting it out there and having you guys be successful, that will come back. The law of the universe, you put it out there and you put positive, it comes back. It may not be right away, but it does. So my intention is to continually provide good content. And this is just my first in hopefully a many episode podcast type of situation where I'm just going to be giving and giving and giving. And if you have questions, let me know. If you don't like it, let me know that. This is just my first go. So I probably butchered the hell out of a lot of it, and I went all over the place. I didn't have any script. It's just from the heart. And hopefully you can understand that my intention is just for you to take something out of this, and that is try. Just try. Because what you're doing now isn't working. And if it is working, that's even scarier because you're not willing to try anything to break what's already working. Because if it's working for you, then you can get complacent and lazy and not challenge yourself. Because, like I heard somebody say, well, with TV, we're doing great. We got like a 9% return. Yeah, but what's wrong with like a 35 or 40% return? What's wrong with getting a 50% return? How do you know unless you try? That's the best way I can say. All right, thanks guys. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. If you have any questions, let me know.